Clarice walked down the boulevard with dishevelled emotions. The cold wind blew in her face, but she seemed oblivious to its unpleasant touch. She was angry with herself, her husband Geoffrey, and the whole world because yet another attempt to conceive had failed. This meant that all the expensive treatment they had been undergoing for 6 months at a costly clinic was for naught. Her mobile phone rang. "Well, I won't answer. No matter who it is, I'm not in the mood," the woman decided. But the caller was insistent, and Clarice had to pull her phone out of the inner pocket of her purse. "Hubby," read the inscription on the screen. "Clarice, where are you? I wanted to ask you what you would like for dinner. I'm going to cook something delicious for us," said a pleasant male voice. "I don't know. Actually, I don't need any dinner. I'm not hungry," Clarice coldly replied. "Where are you? Let me meet you. I shouldn't have listened to you and not gone to the appointment with you." Geoffrey was already speaking nervously. "Everything's fine. I'll be there soon," Clarice said and ended the conversation. She understood that she was wrong to be angry with her husband, but despair was overwhelming her, and it was difficult for her to keep herself in check. The exact reason for their inability to conceive could not be determined, even by numerous doctors they had consulted. Some said the problem was with Clarice, others claimed it was with her husband, and still others said it was due to incompatibility. The fourth ones reassured them, "Everything will be fine, just wait a little." But this dragged on for many years. Geoffrey and Clarice got married early, at the age of 12. Contrary to popular belief that they should wait, finish college, find a job, they replied, "Why wait if we're good together?" The wedding glasses ran out, and even then the newlyweds knew that they would have a large family. 3 children. But it didn't happen. Instead of a gang of babies, there were dozens of medical examinations and consultations. This was followed by endless treatments in clinics. Huge hopes were placed on the IVF procedure, but something went wrong there too. The laughter of children never echoed in the apartment of the young family. As time went on, Clarice became more convinced that she was cursed. Once, when she was 17, a gypsy woman in the park called out to her and offered to tell her fortune. Clarice was afraid of gypsies and, of course, refused, running away from the park. The gypsy woman, annoyed, shouted after her, "You will not have happiness, and you will not have children." Years later, Clarice would often remember those words and begin to believe in the power of the curse. Her husband, Geoffrey, insisted that it was all nonsense, just the anger of an impudent gypsy, and that she needed to forget it. But Clarice couldn't forget, especially when another attempt to get pregnant failed. Lost in bitter thoughts, Clarice didn't notice that she had approached the house. Geoffrey hurried to the hallway at the sound of keys. Seeing Clarice's saddened eyes, he immediately understood the reason for her bad mood. "Don't worry, my dear. You know that we are fighters, and we will fight until we win. Let's go have dinner. I have a gift for you." Geoffrey embraced her. "Geoffrey, I don't want anything. I'd rather lie down," Clarice replied. "Well, at least for 20 minutes, Geoffrey asked, looking affectionately at Clarice. And she melted, just like on their first meeting 12 years ago. On the table was a freshly prepared dinner, filling the room with its aromatic scent. Geoffrey was always caring, especially now that he knew about Clarice's difficult emotional state. He himself was worried about the lack of children. "Clarice, look what I have." Geoffrey handed Clarice an envelope. Clarice opened it curiously. Inside were tickets for a flight to a city whose name she had never heard before. Clarice looked at her husband in surprise, not understanding why they needed this trip. "My dear, there is wonderful nature and a beautiful temple, but the point is not in it, but in the priest. According to people, he performs miracles for families with the same problem as ours. Shall we go? We won't lose anything if we visit him, but we can gain a lot," Geoffrey persuaded her. Clarice didn't need any convincing. Wherever there was a small chance of getting pregnant, she grasped it like a drowning person clings to a straw. Her eyes sparkled and she smiled. "Yes, dear, of course, let's go." Geoffrey had the gift of lifting my spirits and pulling me out of depression. I envy myself for having such a wonderful husband, Clarice thought to herself. And in just a few moments, she was enjoying the dinner prepared by Geoffrey with gusto. It took only one day to get ready. Successfully landing and driving another hour and a half on a cramped bus, Clarice and Geoffrey found themselves in a tiny provincial town. Amazingly, there was even a hotel. Of course, it was nothing compared to a seaside hotel, but they could spend a few days there. However, the road to the temple in this spring mud left much to be desired. Walking on the slippery cobblestones, Clarice almost twisted her ankle, but it didn't upset her at all. Compared to their dream of having a child together, it was nothing. The temple was truly impressive. Its beauty inside and out left no one indifferent. When Geoffrey and Clarice entered the temple, a mass was in progress. The feeling of grace and faith in a better future overwhelmed everyone, even the most serious men. The emotions were so intense that they sent shivers down the spine. Clarice even burst into tears, never forgetting why she came here. At that moment, she believed in God like never. "Everything will work out for us, for sure," Clarice insisted, and sincerely prayed together with the other parishioners. When the Mass ended, Clarice rushed to the priest, as if afraid that he would leave and never return. "Reverend Roche, I really need to talk to you." "Yes, of course. How can I help you? Let's sit down," the priest offered, looking intently at the woman. The thing, Clarice hesitated, but she gathered her thoughts and told the sad story of her family. "You're tired of the unsuccessful procedures, you say. You're on the right track. There will be more tests and doctors. With God's help, you'll overcome everything. You have great strength, and your spirit is strong. Only—" The priest suddenly stopped and continued to stare at Clarice like an X-ray. "Only what?" the woman asked, frightened. "Only a child, perhaps not even one, will be born, not quite normal," the priest replied. Clarice was happy and upset at the same time. "What do you mean? Sick?" she asked. "I won't tell you anything more, my dear. Only God knows what will happen next. I know that you will be happy, that's for sure. The most important thing is to do everything the doctors tell you. God bless you," the priest said and left. Clarice was impressed by what she heard and grabbed her husband's hand, chattering. "Geoffrey, did you hear what the Reverend Roche said? We'll have children. It's a miracle." "But—" "Of course we will, Clarice. No buts. The priest advised you to see a doctor. You know, when we come back, we'll go to in vitro fertilization. I believe that this time everything will work out for us," Geoffrey reassured her. Yes, let's do that. I promise you." Clarice was inspired. That night she couldn't fall asleep for a long time, and only at dawn did she have a beautiful dream. She and her husband were walking along the seashore when two cheerful girls, sisters, ran up to them, holding hands tightly. "Daddy, Mummy, we're finally together!" they exclaimed in unison. "Clarice, wake up! Get up! We're late for the bus." Geoffrey lightly shook her shoulder. Clarice was in a great mood all the way home. She hadn't felt such lightness and joy in a long time. This feeling of confidence in a happy future didn't leave her when they went to the IVF procedure with her husband. A month later, Clarice felt that something unusual was happening to her. The symptoms were all there: slight nausea in the morning, sleepiness, and slight weakness. Clarice was even afraid to say that long-awaited word so as not to scare it away. "Geoffrey, imagine, I think I'm pregnant. Tomorrow I'll go to the doctor and take a test. Everything will be clear. But, oh my God, how much I want to know it today. Geoffrey, if it's not too much trouble, go and buy a test for me at the pharmacy," Clarice asked. Geoffrey dashed to the pharmacy. 5 minutes after his returning, Clarice burst out of the bathroom, overjoyed. "I'm pregnant! Pregnant!" she exclaimed, seeing the coveted 2 stripes. The priest's words had come true. Geoffrey picked up his beloved and began to dance around the room. Usually men are more restrained in their emotions, but this was a long-awaited child. When the first moment of euphoria passed, the couple decided not to relax. It was too early to celebrate the victory. Everything needed to be checked. The next morning, Clarice eagerly went to the doctor. Her soul was rejoicing. Finally, a real miracle had happened. "Well, let's check. Here's a referral for a blood test. Tomorrow everything will become clear," the doctor said significantly. The analysis confirmed her pregnancy. The couple was hit by a second wave of uncontrollable happiness. No wonder. They had been waiting for this event for years. "You'll need an ultrasound in a week and a half. Let's see how the fetus is developing," the doctor said. "Yes, of course," Clarice replied, not doubting for a moment that everything would be fine. As she lay down on the medical couch, she suddenly felt afraid. Unfortunately, her fear was not unfounded. "Doctor, is something wrong?" the girl asked anxiously. Suddenly, the doctor, who had been chatting happily with her until then, fell silent. Apparently, he was trying to choose his words carefully so as not to scare the patient to death. "Doctor, what's wrong with the baby?" Clarice repeated her question, trembling with fear. Finally, the doctor looked away from the screen and said quietly, "You will not have 1 child, but 2. But they will share 1 egg and 1 placenta between them. This means that there is a far greater chance that one of the babies will die, as it will be in less comfortable conditions than the other. A lack of nutrition, for example, could already lead to a fatal outcome. This is terrible, but not the worst thing." Clarice's hands and feet went cold. She felt as if she had been plunged headlong into icy water. She panicked and looked at the doctor. Apparently the doctor himself was in shock and was trying to cope with his uncontrollable emotions so as not to scare the patient to death. There is also a high risk of pathology. The babies may be fused. These are rare cases in the world, but such a possibility exists here. I will understand if you decide to have an abortion. The doctor destroyed Clarice mentally. She lay there, neither alive nor dead, and whispered, "Fused? Does that mean they could share a body? Legs? Arms? Clarice asked, and tears streamed down her cheeks. This is only a conjecture. We need to observe. You are still in the early stages of pregnancy. Your doctor will suggest treatment methods that may reduce the risks of pathology. The most important thing is to keep yourself together. The doctor encouraged her as best as he could in such a situation. Clarice struggled to get up from the couch and, slumped with grief, made her way to the door. She had not expected such a turn of fate. Her crystal dream of happiness had collapsed. Only one thought was spinning in her brain. I will have disabled children. Why did this happen to me? Why? Suddenly her vision darkened. Her head became heavy. In the next moment, Clarice realized that her legs were giving way, and she was falling. A moment later, she fell into darkness, but managed to feel someone's hands supporting her. Clarice regained consciousness in one of the offices. What kind of concert are you giving here? Get yourself together, said the unfamiliar doctor strictly, and adjusted her glasses on her nose. I have such grief, Clarice blubbered with tears in her eyes. I've heard it all. You don't need to continue. You are not the first to have a pathology detected in your early stages. You will be treated, and everything may change by the time you give birth. Clarice just shook her head. She was so inconsolable that no comforting words could reach her. She walked down the street and mechanically moved her legs, which carried her home. The phone rang. Clarice mechanically pressed the answer button. Clarice, how are you? You haven't called in a while. Geoffrey's voice was heard. Everything is bad, Clarice said through tears. What happened? Are you okay? But Geoffrey shouted in vain because Clarice turned off the phone. The same thoughts were spinning in her head, one after another. Get rid of them, said the inner voice. No, I can't do that. I'm so tired. Maybe it's better to let me be gone. Then it will be easier for everyone, whispered Clarice, suddenly deciding on a terrible thing. Her hands trembled with a slight tremble as she gathered all the medicine in the house, stacking the pills in one pile. Now, I'll mix it and swallow it. Life is over, Clarice decided. She poured half a glass of water, folded all the pills, and was ready to drink it all at once, but then the sound of the opening door was heard, and Geoffrey rushed into the apartment out of breath. Glancing at the kitchen table, where empty blister packs of pills lay, he immediately understood everything and knocked the glass out of Clarice's hands. What are you doing? How dare you? He shouted. Our children will be freaks, the kind that are rare in the world. Clarice screamed in response, her voice breaking. They are our children. Even if not completely healthy, we won't give up. Remember, we promised each other that we would be together in sorrow and joy. Keep your promise. Geoffrey tried to bring his wife back to life. Clarice sat down on a chair and hugged her head with her hands. When a doctor tells you something like this, you can really lose your mind. But her husband, caring and understanding, still saved her. Sweetheart, you need to rest. Sleep. I'm giving you sleeping pills. And tomorrow we'll come up with a plan of action. You know we'll definitely come up with something. Geoffrey hugged her shoulders. Although his heart was beating wildly, he was, of course, upset about his wife's unfavourable prognosis of a multiple pregnancy, but he was afraid to show his condition to Clarice. After all, he almost lost her today. Clarice, burying her head in the pillow, fell asleep. Reverend Roche, the same priest who predicted the birth of unusual children, appeared in her dream. "How weak you turned out to be, Clarice. Can you really do this? This is not Christian-like." The priest looked sternly at her. "I told you that you would be happy, and you would be happy. Just follow the doctor's instructions and pray a lot. Sincerely, selflessly. Don't give in to bad moods. It's a step towards the abyss." The next morning, Clarice woke up in a spiritual, different person. She told her husband about yesterday's shock and dream. "I told you not to give up, and this Reverend, he's a wonderful person. Even from a distance he helps. Give me your word that you won't give up any more. Whatever happens next, we'll handle it." Geoffrey instilled hope in her. And then began the same endless chain of medical procedures, utilizing the latest techniques. Geoffrey spared no expense and took his wife to another city to see doctors who had first-hand experience dealing with severe cases like Clarice's. The only thing the woman was afraid of was having an ultrasound. When it was necessary, she asked not to tell her about what was happening inside her. After each ultrasound, she went to the church and prayed, as Reverend Roche had taught her, with great faith in a happy future. And after visiting the church, she often felt more intensive pushes of the babies, as if they wanted to be born as soon as possible. This made her feel calmer and lighter. A feeling of peace and prosperity returned to her. Time went on relentlessly. The delivery date was approaching. Clarice's excitement was growing like a snowball. All pregnant women feel discomfort at this moment. What to say about Clarice? The Council of Doctors decided to operate on Clarice. They were afraid of natural childbirth in such an extraordinary case. The day had come. Clarice tossed and turned all night, which became difficult for her because of her large belly. The anxious state did not leave her, and in the morning the sun came out, warm and spring-like. Birds sang, as if all nature were waking up, anticipating a miracle. Clarice held on to her cross all morning and prayed to God. The clock hands hurried towards the time when her babies were to be born. Clarice remembered every detail, the focused faces of doctors and nurses, the many of them in the operating room, the bright light of the lamps, and even the white cloth that separated the operation from her eyes will remain in her memory. Also the painful injection that plunged part of her body into a state of anesthesia. Despite being immobilized, Clarice felt the doctor's hands performing the operation. She also felt the 2 little lives that will now see the light. She really wanted to look at their tiny faces. She already loved them. Bad thoughts were long thrown out of her head. These are her children, and she will never abandon them. Clarice drifted away in her thoughts, and her imagination had already gone far beyond the limits of the operating room. The dream was interrupted by the voice of Dr. Morgan, who was performing the operation. He asked the assistants, "Are you ready to take the first child?" The woman answered barely audibly. At that moment, she unexpectedly whispered, "Oh, I can't get him out. Something is blocking it." Oh my God. Did they really merge together? The last ultrasound didn't show this. The astonished doctor replied. Clarice lay like a stone. She felt that not only the part of her body that succumbed to anesthesia, but also the other one had turned to stone. A lump rose in her throat. "Doctor, what's happening? Please don't stay silent," cried Clarice. Dr. Morgan knew he couldn't wait any longer. He needed to carefully extract the babies from the mother's body to avoid any mishaps. "Everything will be all right. Don't worry," he told Clarice and instructed his assistant. "Take the first baby. I'll immediately take the second." At that moment, bright sunlight flooded the operating room. It was as if angels from heaven had sent it. That's what it seemed like to Clarice. And a miracle happened. 2 girls, 2 little angels, were born into the world holding hands. The doctors were stunned. No one expected to see this, and no one would have believed it if they hadn't witnessed it for themselves. The little girls held on to each other so tightly that at first Dr. Morgan thought that they were stuck together by their palms. But thank God that wasn't the case. Their hands unfurled, and then they immediately reached for each other again. Clarice felt like the happiest person on earth. The nurses washed and swaddled the babies and showed them to their mother. Clarice barely touched them with her lips and immediately named them Anna and Maria. Geoffrey, who was more worried about the babies than Clarice, agreed to the names. The newspapers wrote about this unique case, where a terrible pathology was diagnosed at the beginning of the pregnancy, but it didn't happen. The internet was filled with messages about it. One girl, Anna, was completely healthy, but the other, Maria, had heart problems. She had to undergo 2 complex surgeries, but that wasn't all. Expensive rehabilitation awaited the parents. Geoffrey did everything he could to find the necessary amount of money, but it was so high that he couldn't get enough. The whole world helped the young family. Even the doctors and medical staff at the maternity hospital where the babies were born offered help. Thanks to the internet, information about the sick child quickly spread online. Hundreds of caring people provided help, and the baby girl started to recover. The threat to her life disappeared. Nothing has changed since that day. The same state of grace and spiritual peace. The Reverend Roche led the Mass, the same man who had once predicted a difficult but happy destiny for Clarice. Today, he had a different mission: to baptize 2 charming baby girls, Anna and Maria. They stood silently clinging to their parents, holding hands out of habit. When the baptism took place, tears streamed down Clarice and Geoffrey's faces. Now, the already strong bond between the daughters was also strengthened by God's blessing. Years will pass, and it's uncertain how the lives of the 2 girls will turn out, but we really want to hope that they will be happy. Miracles happen. We just have to believe.